This is in response to Billy's Talking Points memo from Monday, January 19th, 2015, President Obama in the real State of the Union. Now, actually, this is such a good example, Billy, and I hope I can stay condensed in this in my response, is that this is a real reason why you are a really lousy human being and that you really are, what's a good term? I don't know. Just a bad person in terms of what you actually believe in. So the first thing you go in is you start talking about how Obama wants to raise taxes on the wealth, on the affluent, and on businesses. And basically you start talking about redistribution. And I just like to go from the point from, that's not redistribution. That's the fact that those rates are way too low to begin with. They've been low for a long period of time. There is a discrepancy between the rich and the poor that has never been greater than it is right now. And you want to use the term redistribution as if it's going to poor people, and making the implication that it's going to poor people who didn't deserve it because they didn't work hard enough, whereas the minimum wage is at a very, very low point. What would it be if it was at the rate that you were at when you were in high school? So you were born in 49, so the mid-60s, something like that. 115, 125, something like that. That'd probably be $12, $13 an hour. What's it now? $7.75. So you have this thing about perception, that Obama's not caring about people when he really, because he wants to raise taxes on the wealthy and businesses and its redistribution, when he does care about them. Now, if you want to keep the taxes where they are, you could start by increasing the minimum wage to the wage that it was when you were 16, 17, and 18, whatever that was, whatever the adjusted for inflation, what the amount that might be. And I would really not, saying that it's taking from the rich. No, I'm really not saying that's wrong. That the rich need to pay their fair share. Right now, I believe that what Obama is going to go for is to increase the capital gains rate from 23 to 28%. That's an extra 5%, which is the amount that it was in the Reagan administration. Of course, everyone talks about how great Reagan was, and why can't we have it at the rate that Reagan was? And in fact, I think that someone, maybe it was Lawrence O'Donnell, talked about it one time, is that, what we're really describing, and of course it's just billions of dollars here, but what we are describing about is allowing the government to run efficiently, effectively, to look for the long-term aspects of what's good for the United States and what's good for the people of the United States, as opposed to the austerity measures that we have going on right now, which is basically the difference between running the government at about 19% of GDP and running the government at about 23% of GDP. I think we can do that. And if necessary, with global warming, maybe we should go to 25%. Now, we need the best and the brightest in there to help us do that, to do it efficiently and effectively. But that's what we need to do, if that ultimately was the way we go. So, you go back to your memo that redistribution is stifling the economy, and that Obama just has to stop doing this, And again, you go, a fair-minded person, well, no, not a fair-minded person, a biased-minded person like you would say, Obama needs to stop. But basically, again, what Obama's trying to do is trying to bring up what is going on in the world today, and what is going on in the world today is that the poor are suffering and the rich are not. And the rich have more money than they've ever had before in terms of the rich, and the poor have basically less money than they've ever had before. And then you go into some aspect where you say that 35% of the people in the United States are getting some type of government assistance, and of course you're saying that is a critical mass. Now, I've said this before, and I'd like to say it again. You are the recipient of that government assistance, because, well, I shouldn't say that. I should say, I want to make a big assumption that you are. And that, number one, is that you use the home mortgage deduction, which is government assistance. Number two, Fox News takes the deduction on for your medical expenses. That's two. That's two things that you are receiving from government assistance on. Now, if you would want to do it there where you wouldn't be getting any government assistance, then you would buy your house with cash, which I'm sure you have no problem doing. Maybe you did buy your house with cash. And you pay your medical expenses out of pocket, because that's the way it was done in G. Gordon Liddy's time, or his father's time, as he would talk about something like that all the time. basically you're indicating that Obama doesn't really care that we have become a nation of takers, because he just wants to continue to perpetuate that nation of takers, which is not true at all. He wants to have a rising tide that lifts all boats out of the misery of poverty. And there are many ways to do that, none of which your Republicans, your friends and the Republicans, will want to do anything about whatsoever. So as far as I'm concerned, Billy, you're a perpetuator of the myth that rich people got everything that they deserved. When the tax laws, which were, when you were 16 years old, it was probably 60-70% in terms of income tax laws at the time. You were able to have a pretty decent life. Of course, I know you said that you were poor, but you were middle class, and you know it. Anybody that went to Catholic school was middle class, or just about. So, you bring up that the State of the Union is a big propaganda thing there, but it is an opportunity for the president to speak in front of the Congress, to speak his mind, and hopefully he will set his goalposts at a very progressive state. And whereas before he had set his goalposts at already a compromised position, and then the Republicans just took it and moved the goalposts even further. So you end up, Billy, by talking about how the economy is going down because of Obama's policies, that our stature overseas is going down, and of course we don't know how to fight the jihad. I see how you love to put the little jihad in there every single time, and again, I want to know how many people from ISIL have actually come to the United States and done anything to anyone over here. Okay, the two that were in France, they were born in France, if I remember correctly. Where has ISIL gone into France, into Germany, because they left their home base in Syria, in Iraq? How many people of ISIL have gotten into Germany, have gotten into Norway, have gotten into Sweden, have gotten into France, have gotten into the United States, have gotten into England? None! You see, because Obama doesn't have a policy to fight the jihad, That's funny. Our economic policies, you try and say that because the economy is a little bit better and the gas prices are down. But, here's the big thing. Ever since the election, Obama has been advocating progressive policies. Free school tuition for everyone to go to community college. I know he wants to raise the minimum wage. The Affordable Care Act is actually slowing the rate in terms of the increase in medical costs. So there's a lot of good things that Obama is doing. Of course, you don't want to give him credit for anything, but let me just go back to your thing, the State of the Union and the real State of the Union. The State of the Union is much, much better than it was, much better than it would be if there was any Republicans in place right now. And there is a policy to fight the jihad. It's just that you don't want to see it in any way, shape, or form. Let me just finish again by saying it seems to me, when you spout all this stuff about redistribution, it basically is telling me that you hate poor people, that you think because you did it and that everyone else should be able to do it because you did it. You're very, very fortunate that you were a very smart person. You got into a decent career path, and you've excelled at it. Not everyone has been able to do that. If everyone was just like you, hey, you'd just be another schmo. But, and then to have that type of disdain for poor people, because there's a lot of poor people who work every single day, and they work very hard, and they don't get very much for their labor, and you're just mocking them for that.